Right, welcome back to the channel, Muckers. Something a bit different today. So, look, straight out off the bat, for the professional operators I know that watch this channel, sorry guys, this is back to basics, so I'll catch you on the next one. But I'd actually prefer your help and input. Here's why. I've had a few messages since Christmas actually saying, Mucker, appreciate seeing all the latest kit and equipment and, you know, all the GPS stuff or whatever else is on new machines and all that, but what about going back to basics? What about starting off with greasing up a machine? Now, I did that several years ago with the old monkey maintenance thing, and that's why I want your help, the professional operators, the guys that do this day in and day out, because there's people that watch this that occasionally use a machine or get put on a machine, but they're not on these all the while. And there's a lot of guys that drive these day in and day out and still can't get it right. So we're going to go back to basics, looking about greasing the machine up. As I said, I'd like the input from you guys that are on these, that are pulling levers day in, day out, every day. In the comments section, the old script pit, give us any tips or tricks. Anything, you know, because we all got little different ways of doing stuff. Yeah, there's a basic way to grease up a machine, but there's always those ways. But guys now have got, you know, remote banks to grease from, or even auto greasers. How do you know they're actually working? How do you know that a line isn't blocked? And if it is blocked, what do we do to unblock it and get it working? How do we check that thing? All those little things. What sort of grease do you prefer? What type of grease gun do you prefer? All those things. Put them in the script pit below after you watch the video. Right, so we'll use the old Cabelco today. Bless her. And there's a reason we'll use this, because she's been used and abused enough to show what, you know, what damage can be done, and also to show what repairs are going to be required to put things right. Now, first off, we'll look at why we grease a machine. A lot of you just said, we'll just go, well, it's obvious. It's to keep it lubricated and make sure that it reduces friction and all that, and that's exactly right. Basically, you've got metal pin, you've got a metal bushing there. In between that, you have like a phosphor bronze bushing, which is almost sacrificial because it allows that pin and that bushing face to interact without actually wearing this. It wears the phosphor bronze bushing, and that's got a sort of a spiral cut in that, which allows the passage of the lubricant, the grease in this case, and eventually, you know, hopefully thousands of hours later, that can be replaced. And you've seen us do that on the little Kubota, the K008. Yeah, there we go, that's the bottom pin. And I'll put a link to that video where we changed the pins and bushes at the end of this video. I'll put it in the description box below this and also at the end. And it's an upscale thing. The bigger the machine, the bigger the pins and bushes. You know, you've got two hard metal surfaces, the pin and the actual, like the dog bone here, or maybe this here, where this goes in here, and you've got the outer bushing there. So when that happens, this picks up on that bit of metal because you haven't greased it. There's been no lubrication. It's then worn through all the softer phosphor bronze type bushing, and it just starts eating it itself. The trouble is, because they're a similar hardness, they tend to grab, and then all of a sudden they're fighting, and you cannot imagine the power that a ram is still trying to exert. And rather than that turning nicely, and then that's when the weakest element will actually part company. It's often these welds. And when that happens, it literally tears this off here. So a bit of grease just to make those two things run nicely and to reduce the wear in that phosphor bronze bushing. You've lost all that and you've now created two friction surfaces and they're going to fight to the end. And as I said, that ram's still trying to give it all its power. And as I said, it don't matter whether it's on a little 0.8 or whether it's on an 8-tonner or an 80-tonner. It's still going to tear out somewhere. Lately, we've just had the ram put on, which is good. Now, the one upside about replacing this ram is the phosphor bronze bushings in the end of this ram are actually extremely good. They were a very tight fit. So that was actually, you know, every cloud and all that. So there you can see one here, and that leads down further down the back there, so you can get to those main pins in there on the back of the boom. Again, no excuse not to grease it because they're there. And there are some that go along the top to the top rams. Just little things like that, because oil and grease is cheaper than steel. What do I mean by that? Well, a tube of grease is, let's just say, a couple of bucks, £2, whatever, a couple of quid. But if it's not actually getting to where it needs to go to, you can then get the situation, as I said, where the bushing just dries out, gets chewed out, and the next thing you got pin and the outer boss taking on each other and fighting, and next thing you've torn the end out, twisted the dog bone there, you've broken a weld or something, and then from the sake of, you know, a couple of quid, you're now into several hundreds, sometimes thousands of pounds to rectify what you've broken or twisted, just for the sake of not checking that you're getting grease. So let's start right at the beginning and look at the basic steps of greasing a machine. All right, so basically you've got these sort which are shrouded, because obviously they're exposed when you're digging to the back of the trench or whatever, or the hole that you're digging, and you can hit them on a truck that you're loading, whatever. So they protect them like this. You'll get those that sometimes are inside the pin, again, to give protection. And there's this sort which are exposed there because they're actually protected by the whole structure itself. So no matter what type they are, the first thing you got to do is make sure that they're actually clean and clear to apply the actual grease gun onto. And in this case, we want to clear out any gunk or gunge that is in and around this shroud. Now, personally, I always find that the best thing to clean them out with is a snap-on screwdriver. Just kidding. Any little screwdriver is good, or a nail, something basic you can just get in and claw out any grease. That's all you need. Just go in there, take out any crud. Like that. So that way you're ensuring that you're not going to put any dirt into the grease fitting itself, and also that the grease gun coupler end can push straight on there and actually get a hold. Then you've got your actual end of the grease gun, so just give that a wipe each time, and then you can put it on there like that. Push it until you feel it click and grab. That's on there now. But like I say, try and hold it. If you haven't got a quick coupler, try and hold it in, like, as much as you can in a nice, even, upright position. And then there we go. You can hear that grease being pumped in there now. Now, for demonstration purposes, I've completely over-greased this, but I've done that because I want to show you something. Can you see the new grease there? Can you see all the old dirt and grime that's being pushed out? So another point of reference here. More modern machines, and machines that are a lot newer, may even have dust caps on the actual point where you're greasing at the end of a pin or whatever. And basically that helps to stop the ingress of dirt. So that's a great thing. Again, it goes hand in hand. Not all machines will have that, and as they get older they often break away and come away and just get pushed out with grease. Now there's often a lot of arguments as well about how much grease. Can you over grease something? I don't really think you can over grease, because like I say, you just push the stuff out. When they're worn, you can just keep pushing grease through until you see it like that. And obviously not as much as that, but till you start seeing the old grease coming out, you know you've got new grease in its place. That's great. But with a newer machine, as you said, with the sealed caps and stuff like that, quite often you would do so many pumps of the grease gun per day. So you don't wait to see it, because you don't want to push the cap out. But yeah, you can do it like that. You can sort of say like that one has 5 pumps a day, that one has 10 pumps, so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, as long as you know you're getting grease in there, that's what matters most of all. So like we said, this one here, you can see the grease coming through. But it's often good to make sure you're getting grease, which there is this side as well, so it isn't all up one side. Otherwise you can still get wear on the part that's dry. Okay, so the exposed type, what do we do about that? Well, very simply, get the rag and just give them a good old clean. There you go. And then we can put the grease gun onto that one. And once again, you can see grease starting to come out around these edges. So that's fine. Let's push the old stuff out, and we've got to replace that with the new. And it's just the same with the remote type greasers. Give them a clean and away you go. Now the only thing I'd say about the remote type greaser or any auto lube system is at least once a week you need to check that you're getting grease to those points. So that may mean, you know, just getting a ladder out and getting up there. And if you can see that there's grease being put through to each end, that's absolutely fine. If it's not visible and you think, I don't know, there doesn't seem to be any grease going through, then you may have to take the line off and pump through to make sure that the grease is getting through. There's not a blockage or anything in there. If it may be blocked in the line, in which case you could be able to push it through, or it may actually be blocked up in the fitting itself. What do you do when you get a block fitting? Again, it's very, very easy. So if you do get a block fitting where the grease nipple is, or as I said, zerk, whatever they call them in America, easiest way is at the end of it, you can see there's a little, like a ball bearing. You can just give that a little push with your screwdriver to see if that's actually working, because that's like the one-way valve. Now, sometimes you'll find that the little ball bearing's broken or seized or even missing, so that it's not holding grease in. As soon as you put the grease in, it's been pressurized and pushed out, or it's just gone solid, and as it's not actually getting the grease past it and into where you want the grease to be, around the pin and the bushing. Now, as you can actually see here, they are a hexagonal fitting. So you can get a socket or a wrench on their spanner, and you can just undo them and replace them. And quite often when you take them out, you'll see that there's all dirt and muck, and that's all solidified as the grease has as well behind them. You can just get in there, clean that out, and then fit a new one. Just as another point of interest, while you're stood greasing something up, just have a look around the welds and that, around these bosses, and you're looking for two things. You're looking for paint cracking and coming away, and the main reason that would do that is because there's stress in there. Obviously this one isn't, paint's fine on here, but when this starts to pick up on that, as we said, let's then try to turn this. At the time, first part, it's all right because the weld's there, but eventually it'll put so much stress that that'll start to flex this weld and crack the paint off. So that's one of the first telltale signs. The other thing is what I always call bleed out. Sometimes you'll look at a machine and you'll see like rust starting to run out, like watery rust. That's another telltale sign that something in there is dry and isn't getting grease. Just look out for that. And that, muckers, is basically that. It's that simple. You know, there are points to be greased. There are checks to be made. The main thing is keep them clean, keep them greased, and make sure that the grease is going in the right place. It's that easy. Now, I'll be the first to admit there is the everyday game of grease gun roulette. Is it going to go for 2 or 3 little squirts and pumps today and then run out? Have we got a full tube? Will we get it all done with just this one cartridge? Or are we going to get halfway through and then find it runs out? It's just how it happens. Now, I know for a fact that because this is worn, as I said, and the grease has got a lot of places to go, basically it's a whole tube of grease to do this machine every time I use it, okay? And as I said, we haven't used it for several months because of the ram, but the next time I go to use it, I don't think, did I do it last time or whatever, I will just go through it from start to finish and grease it. And I will get through that in basically a whole tube of grease. Once we've repinned and bushed it, I doubt we'll use half a cartridge every time. So there we go, muckers. That is it. This is not, you know, high-tech video or, you know, something that's sort of groundbreaking. But it literally is the ABC of looking after your machine. That's where it all starts. Keeping it well greased and lubricated. Cutting down on, you know, downtime. Because, you know, a few minutes a day can prevent downtime of several days, sometimes weeks, you know. If you haven't a line bore something, or, you know, to put something right that could have been so easily prevented. But there we are. Like I said, just keep on top of your greasing. Make sure the grease is getting where it wants to be. And to be honest, the rest should be fairly straightforward. So, until the next one. Do well.